I'd like to introduce Kim from England, who has multiple sclerosis. Welcome, Kim.
Hi there, Linda.
Could you tell me when you started noticing MS symptoms?
The first time was when I was 17 with numbness and paralysis in my leg, and then in my early 20s when I developed what I thought was Bell's palsy and one side of my face went completely numb. And very, very mild symptoms like that right on until my late 20s when the real biggie started.
Mm-hmm.
So it was quite early on, I guess, that I developed the symptoms, but they weren't diagnosed until I was 30 years old.
Right. So what symptoms did you have by that time?
By then, again, it was really, really bizarre. It was really, really quick. I came back from working abroad, and with a few weeks, I came from a warm country back to England. I don't know if it was something to do with going from really warm climate to the cold that triggered it off. And I had MS with seizures, and one night I was out walking, and I walked literally into a pole, and I went home and I had a mild seizure, which I didn't realise that's what it was. And I went to the doctor, my GP, and he told me that I'd had perhaps a really bad migraine. I was to go home and rest and it would be all right. And then 2 days later, I had a grand mal seizure, which put me into hospital. And I then went into status epilepticus for a few days. I was really, really sick. And that was the beginning of many, many months of illness. So it started a really bizarre, like huge onset of seizures for me. It began that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an unusual form of MS with seizures, which still neurologists have problems dealing with because it's to do with the grey matter and the white matter of the brain or something like that. But I do have MS with seizures, so I have epilepsy with the MS. So it was the seizures that started it off, and I also have the remitting relapsing. Well, I did have. I don't have anymore because of the LDN, thankfully. But yes, I have a more unusual type of MS. I guess some of the listeners out there will know because we're a small percentage, but there are a few of us that have MS with seizures. So anybody else out there listening that has it, you're not alone because I have it too.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry, lost the train of thought there. So how old were you when you were actually diagnosed?
I was 30.
30.
Yeah.
And how did that affect you, having the label of MS?
Well, again, it was fine for me because I was so ill initially. They thought I had a cortical vein thrombosis, so I had a blood clot in my brain.
Mm-hmm.
And then after 8-9 months, I recovered and I got well again. And then about 8 months later, again, the same thing happened and I had all these seizures. And they took me into hospital for about 6 weeks. They did loads and loads of tests and a huge amount of tests. And they thought that I had, something worse than MS, that I can't remember what you call it, one of the more motor neurons disease, that was it, sorry. Mm-hmm. The consultants thought I had motor neurons disease. They didn't tell me, but I had my suspicions because they were all so pleasant and it was the beginning of the end for me, the way they were acting. So when they told me I had MS, I actually started laughing, and the consultant said to me, "You're the first person I've ever told that has MS," and you laughed. And I said, well, being told MS for me wasn't the end. It was the beginning. It wasn't the end of everything for me. I still had a chance with MS. I knew it wasn't a killer immediately, and you can still live with MS. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was okay. I didn't mind having MS.
Mm-hmm. And how did you hear about LDN?
LDN, that was, again, fortunate chance for me. I was feeling really down. I had gone back I'd stayed away from the National Neurological Hospital in London for a long time, and I went to my GP once. It was a new GP, and she thought I was too well because I'd been in remission for weeks. Oh, sorry, not weeks, months and months and months. And I was going to gym and I was exercising, trying to look after myself. And she sent me to the National Neurological, and they started testing me. And the 2 years of testing, they made me really, really sick. And they put me into what I now have, secondary progressive MS. Mm-hmm. And it was over the 2 years of testing to see if I had MS with seizures, if it exists, that one night I was really, really down, and I was looking on the internet, just browsing and thinking there must be something. I was looking actually for something more morbid because I thought I'm not getting any better, I'm getting more sick. And I was thinking about my family, and I thought they're watching me deteriorating rapidly. and I was looking for things in Switzerland, to be honest. I was thinking about the most morbid you can imagine, and I came across LDN. Just chance, I came across the letters LDN, and I clicked on it because it said MS. And then I called Linda, I called yourself after that, because I thought, what is this? And you told me a lot about it. And then I started on LDN, and everything changed. I went from contemplating the end to a new beginning.
Oh, that's wonderful. And did you notice any initial side effects?
Not. I've written it all down actually. I kept a diary for it. Just no side effects. Just that I couldn't believe how remarkable the change was, how rapidly it happened. I could feel it within 5 to 6 days. I noticed something was different, and I felt a little bit confused, uncomfortable. That would be the words, but not pain or anything. Just unusual feelings. But not any major side effects. I had the dreams as well, which I think everybody that takes the LDN may experience, which I don't have anymore. I still have dreams. It may be that you just become accustomed to them. Perhaps that's it, but it isn't any big deal anymore. So I didn't really have any side effects, none that I could speak of that were any big deal. There wasn't anything. I mean, I remember being able to stand. I used to have to sit down in the bed to put on my trousers because I couldn't balance. And then one day I was able to stand on one leg, and I can still remember that feeling of like, wow, I can stand on one leg. I had balance again. And my husband used to wash my hair for me. This is going back just 2 years ago. That was how incapacitated I've become with the MS, that I couldn't even wash my own hair. Now I can do everything the way I could do a long, long time ago. It's given me so much back. There was no real side effects.
So the symptoms that you had when you started, I mean, what were they?
I'm trying to remember because I've written it down. I'm just looking through my, I'm looking to see what they were. A bit uncomfortable, confused, because I tried a higher dose and I put it back down and that was fine. And I didn't really have, I had less pain, less fatigue. I noticed more positive side effects, to be honest. I didn't really have any negative side effects. I didn't actually have, I had strange feelings in my hand. I've written that down. And I had unusual feelings in my spine, but not bad. They would pass. And I've written down, I think, perhaps the old scars. I've written down that maybe the sensations I had, it was almost as though the old scars in my brain with the MS, the plaques were being stimulated in some way because it was like minor MS symptoms, but I could feel the sensation of it, and then it would pass. I don't have that at all anymore, but that's the only way I can describe it. And I'm just looking to see was there any more. Slight tingles and numbness in my fingers, but that was it. It was just like very minor MS symptoms that came over a period, like over a week or so, but they were so minor. It was just really minor and noticeable just because it was unusual and not as aggressive as it had been in the past. It was different. It wasn't painful anymore. And one major thing I noticed was that I have always been able to sense, and it's strange, you have to, I guess, have the seizures or have MS with seizures to feel it. Although you're on anticonvulsant drugs, you can still have a sense of a seizure, not a seizure, that there is seizure activity. That's how I can describe it. You can have a feeling that you might have a petit mal or something. Although the drugs control it, it's almost like if they weren't taking them, there would be like a flood load and the seizures would start immediately. When I started LDN, I lost that sensation completely. I didn't have that feeling anymore, that I could have a seizure. That was gone, and I've never had it since, which is wonderful.
Yes. So what other symptoms did LDN help with? You said fatigue and balance. What about bladder? Was that ever a problem? No,
it wasn't, not really. And it wasn't really, so I didn't really have, maybe for having to rush to get up to the loo in the middle of the night, but no, it wasn't really a problem for me. But I didn't, perhaps if I had to rush to get there quickly, I didn't have that anymore, so I got really stronger. I didn't have any problem as regards a worry that I wouldn't make it to the loo or anything like that. That was fine. It passed. I was able to walk around. I could walk up and down the road, walk down to shops and back. Everything changed. Everything, my balance, my sense of well-being, everything, absolutely everything changed positively for me. I mean, in the first few weeks, I felt like shouting it from the rooftops. I wanted to tell everybody. In fact, the first few months, I used to meet strangers and talk about it because I used to think I think there was a bit crazy, because how can you have MS and suddenly not experience the feelings of it anymore? And then I had to keep my mouth shut because I thought people were going to start thinking I'm insane. Yeah. So that passed eventually, but I think anybody that starts on LDN will have that urge, because I think it's such a wonderful feeling. You want to tell everybody, and then you become accustomed to it, and you forget how you felt before, because now it's become so normal to me. I forget what I felt like before LDN. I mean, I've written it down, but it's 2 years now that I've been on LDN, and I can't believe how wonderful it is, and I would recommend it to anybody to try it, because it wouldn't do any harm to try it.
Well, it's amazing that you were thinking, of ending it all, and now you feel so positive.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
I know, and I was so sick at that point as well. I mean, I was really, really ill. I mean, even I haven't told the neurologist at the National Neurological Hospital, because I have a fear if I tell them, a lot of the consultants don't believe, and if they don't believe something, they want to prod and poke to try and test and find out why you have that. And I wouldn't allow them to do that to me again, and I've thought, no, I'm not going to tell them anything. So my last appointment with them was 2 years ago, and I had just started taking LDN, and I had gone to the first conference for LDN in Glasgow, and I came back after seeing this consultant, and I'd been with him, half an hour, and I'd been on LDN for maybe at that time now a month, and my balance was good. I could walk. I walked in and out of surgery. I went without my husband. Before that, I had to go everywhere with my husband because I had to have his balance, and I wasn't confident in my own walking. And when I left there, he told me, we'll see you in a year. And he said, your side effects are very mild, blah, blah, blah. And then I got a letter waiting for me saying that I had developed secondary progressive MS when I came back from the conference. And I thought, wow, if this is what you call secondary progressive, then if LDN can stop that in its tracks from progressing any further, which I believe it has done for me, then I would say to anybody to try it, and don't be frightened. Don't be frightened of trying a little tiny dose of liquid that might change your life.
What does your husband think?
Well, my husband, he thinks it's wonderful. My husband, I mean, I went from being a sick woman, incredibly sick, that used to have to wash my hair, he used to look after me, he helped me in everything, to somebody that I can now help him. He's self-employed. I help him working. I look after our son. I gave him my life. I gave my husband back me, I guess. He just thinks it's wonderful too, that, and long may it continue, that LDN affects. So, I mean, you notice I still have the speech. Most MS sufferers, especially if you've had it a long time, our speech isn't quite right. But that's fine too, because it's better than it was before I started LDN. It was much worse than this. I still slur my speech. I still speak too fast sometimes, or I forget things, but it's still much better than it was before. And if that's what I have to live with just now, then that's fine. I don't mind it.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, Kim. It's very inspirational.
Thank you, and I wish anybody out there to give it a bash. It won't do you any harm. Try it, and it could be the biggest change and the best change in your life, and it won't do any harm to try it. They say nothing tried, nothing gained. I would say to anybody, try it, and don't listen to the doctors and the people that say it's nonsense and all the scaremongers, because some of my family are like that. I still think they see me, but they still don't quite believe it. And although I talk about LDN, they still listen to. Well, my sister, for example, I'll say this quickly. My poor sister has MS too. We both have MS. She has more classic MS. She takes beta interferon by injection every day. All her veins have collapsed. She's been on it for about 5 years now, but she won't come off it. She came to one of the conference with me. She saw everybody in LDN. She sees me, yet she won't try it because her consultant says no, that it can't work. So she listens to her MS nurse and she listens to her consultant, yet she sees me and she sees that the effect it has upon me, but she's still frightened to try it because the medical world won't accept it. And with LDN, you have to just take a step out into the unknown a little bit and be brave people, I'm going to try this for myself. And I'd say to anybody, be brave and try it, and don't let the medical profession keep you down and tuck you under and be their way, because there are other options always.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank
you also to Linda, because it was Linda who led me to it, and all the other thousands of people in the world that she's helped. Linda that I'm speaking to is an angel.
Well, thank you.
Thank you always, Linda.
Okay.